What's going on, y'all? So I wanted to do a really quick follow-up video on this saga between Sabrina Peterson and TIandTiny. And everyone knows that this thing has been going on for almost a year now, or at least 6 months, right? Now, if by chance you're just tuning in this video for the first time and out of curiosity, let me go ahead and sum all this up for you. So Sabrina Peterson, TIandTiny, they once were friends, and they once, at least that's how I would describe it, and for whatever reason they have become enemies. There are allegations by Sabrina Peterson that Ti put a gun to her head. However, I don't believe that was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, right? So fast forward, Sabrina Peterson, she goes out and she starts soliciting accusers to come out and say that TIandTiny violated them. And it appears that that was somewhat successful, but it looks like what's happened is that although there were investigations initially launched against TIandTiny, those investigations appear to have been dismissed because they're beyond the statutes of limitations. So the investigation in Las Vegas was dismissed because of the statute of limitations. It appears that the Nevada allegations may be dismissed due to statute of limitations as well. Don't quote me on this, but it looks like the statutes of limitations for Nevada was changed in 2015, and the allegations against TIandTiny basically happened prior to the changing of law. So it looks like the Nevada allegations will probably go away. Now, however, there could be other charges filed against TIandTiny, and it looks like TIandTiny are a little nervous about this whole thing because they've actually gone to church, and to me personally, it looks like they're trying to gather the support from communities, and they're basically going to church and they're telling the church that we're not monsters, so on and so forth. Now, let's go ahead and get you quickly caught up. Essentially, what's happened is that Sabrina Peterson, she's recently come out and she goes that she says she's willing to drop her lawsuit if TIandTiny apologize within 7 days. Now, honestly, I don't really know what to think of this. And questions and comments below if you guys think this makes any sense, and if you think there's some type of ulterior motive, or if there's some type of trick here. Because personally, on first glance, it looks like TIandTiny really are, in the position where they're going to be victorious in all of this. If you look at it from my perspective, the way I see it is that they've already beat they've already beat some of the charges because the allegations were beyond the statute of limitations in Las Vegas. It appears that the allegations were beyond the statute of limitations in Nevada as well. So it appears that they have the winning hand. Now, other charges could be filed, right? And that's the reason they're going to church. But for the most part, they've got a couple of wins now. They've got a couple of wins. I'm not saying that they're going to win in the end, but they're starting off winning. They're winning at this point, right? So this thing that Sabrina Peterson is doing now just doesn't make any sense, and I can't really understand it. I cannot understand what her motive is. Again, if you think this is some type of trick on Sabrina Peterson's behalf, definitely explain it and leave your comments below and break it down to me, because I'm just not seeing it. How do you go from trying to sue somebody for millions of dollars and then you flip and say, I will drop my lawsuit if you apologize within 7 days? That's essentially what she's asking for. And T.I. basically responded to this by posting a picture of him and Kevin Hart and Dave Chappelle and Neo all laughing, right? And then from there, I guess Sabrina Peterson, she responds with a narcissist checklist. But I'm not getting what her motive is. I think she's simply trying to save face. And I say this for a reason, and this is where we're going to get into some exclusive information. Now, this information that I'm going to give you is going to be exclusive to my channel as of today, June 3rd, 2021. However, eventually everyone will get access to this information, but for right now, this information is only accessible on my channel. It's exclusive, and it's going to essentially show what I believe is Sabrina Peterson coming to realize that she doesn't have a case, and she's going to lose her feud with TIandTiny. So because of that, I think what she's doing is that she's trying to save face. Now, if I can actually find one of these videos, I would play it for you. Yeah, so if I could find one of these videos, I would play the video for you. Yeah, so here's a video. I'm not actually going to play it because it's actually posted on site's Instagram website. But essentially, she just comes out and she complains about her having to run back and forth to court and deal with all this stuff. And she complains that her business is being interrupted because she has to deal with all this. And my thought is like, so what? Who cares? You filed the lawsuit. TIandTiny didn't file a lawsuit. You filed the lawsuit. So because you filed the lawsuit, it's your responsibility to maintain the lawsuit. But because you can't maintain the lawsuit and because you're losing, now you want to save face and you want to ask for an apology. And I think it was a pretty stupid move on her part because there's no way in hell that they're going to apologize. Like, why would you apologize to someone who essentially tried to destroy you over some nonsense, right? So, again, if I'm wrong about this, questions and comments below. Break it down for me. Uh, Leave your comments below and tell me why you think Sabrina Peterson is asking for this apology. I simply think she's asking for this apology because she knows she's going to lose. She see that her conniving little tactics aren't working with TIandTiny. She tried to use the playbook. She tried to use the Bill Cosby playbook, which is to bring up all these allegations in the media and drag celebrities through the media and then try to get criminal charges filed. And once the criminal charges are filed, or simultaneously while you're dragging them through the media and right before you try to get the criminal charges filed, you also file a civil lawsuit. What you're hoping for is that the celebrities will be so busy with the criminal lawsuit or the criminal complaint or indictment that they won't have time to run back and forth they won't have time to run back and forth to deal with your civil lawsuit. But as you can see, no criminal indictment has been filed, so the Bill Cosby playbook isn't working on TIandTiny. And essentially, she realized she's going to lose. So now when you look at a civil lawsuit, which we're going to get into in a minute, and that's going to be the exclusive information, when you look at the civil lawsuit, it looks like she's going to lose that as well. It looks like she's going to lose that as well. But, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into this, and we can wrap up this video. Okay, so again, this is exclusive information. You won't find this information anywhere but on the YouTube channel of the Non-Lawyer. As of today, June 3rd, 2021, this information is exclusive. Again, I'm sure in time other people will get access to this information, but right now, this is the only channel you're going to find this stuff, right? So here's the thing. I wasn't able to see any evidence that TIandTiny were actually served. And everyone knows if you don't serve a person, then the court will not have personal jurisdiction over them. There's no way that most courts, right? There's no way that most courts will put in a civil judgment against people if they haven't been served. And when you look at the records for Sabrina Peterson in her case, you won't find, at least I didn't find, any evidence that TIandTiny was served. Now here we have Shakina Jones, basically Shakina Jones Anderson, basically filing an appearance in this case, but there's no appearance filed for TIandTiny, so that basically tells me that they haven't been served. And if they haven't been served, there's no way you're going to get a judgment against them. So your lawsuit is basically not going to go anywhere. So she has successfully gotten Shakina Jones to basically file an appearance. You see attorneys, you see here attorneys for Shakina Jones Anderson, and then when you go down, it basically says defendant Shakina Jones Anderson hereby identifies her counsel, preserving all objections to jurisdictional, substantive, or procedural challenge to the complaint, all affirmative defenses, and the right to file any cross complaint as follows. Right? You know, she's just simply filing an appearance, and she could claim that that this court doesn't have jurisdiction to hear this case or personal jurisdiction over her. She could basically claim other challenges to try to get the case dismissed. There's lots of things that she can do with that. And essentially, the only thing she's doing is just saying, hey, I'm acknowledging this lawsuit for now, and we'll see what we're going to do in the defense. Now, the funny thing about this is that I haven't really seen any evidence that Shakina was served, right? Because when you look at proof of service, you see that it was served electronically, right? So William de Klerk, or however you pronounce his name, basically says that he filed this lawsuit, he served this lawsuit to Shakina electronically. And filing and serving someone electronically is not going to really suffice, right? Because basically you're saying you sent that person an email, right? And basically an email is not enough to say that you've served somebody. In order to successfully serve somebody, you would have to, in Illinois, right? So I'll break the process down in Illinois. Basically, what would happen, even federal, what would have to happen is that you would have to send the sheriffs out. And then if the sheriffs aren't successful with serving that person, then you would ask the court for permission to get a special process server, which is essentially a private detective. If the private detective can't basically locate you or serve you, then what you would have to do is that you would have to file or ask the court if you can serve the parties by publication, right? Meaning you're going to put an ad in the newspaper and basically say, hey, TIandTiny, this case has been filed against you. If you do not respond, then a adverse judgment will be put in against you, so on and so forth. And I think as technology moves forward, they will probably allow these type of postings on Facebook if they haven't already done so on Facebook and other message boards and things of that nature, right? But for the most part, that is like the last resort. You can't actually get to that point until you've tried the sheriffs, or the U.S. Marshals, or until you've tried a private detective, so on and so forth. So if you haven't done all that, then you can't get to the point where you can say, okay, we want to put an ad in the newspaper and actually serve them that way. You can't do it that way, right? You'd have to go through a lot of different steps to get to that point, right? There's nothing in law that I know of that will allow you to serve somebody by sending them an email. Now, what I do know you can do is that once the person has been served, everyone agrees that you're going to receive the documents and things of that nature, the court documents from by email, or you can once the initial service is done, everyone can agree that if there's any new motions and things like that, the notice can be given by email, right? Because we live in a digital age and that's just where things are. But the first service has to be done with a actual person physically going out and handing you the documents, right? So that leads me to believe that Shakina is making a mistake, right? Shakina is making a mistake, in my personal opinion. The reason I say that she's making a mistake is because the service, as I see it, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone knows, she's being served by electronic filing. I cause all pages of the above entitled documents to be electronically filed and served on the designated recipients through electronic filing system for the above entitled case. Please see attached list of documents recipients served. Filing transmissions were reported as successful, and a copy of the electronic case filing recipient will be maintained with the original documents in this office. Let me see here. Maybe I'm not following this correctly. I, William DeClerk, declare that I am over 18 years and I am not party to this case. I'm an employee of the County of Los Angeles, California, where the mailing occurs, and my business address is 445 South, blah, 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 blah. On April 16th, I serve the within see attached list on the interested parties said by action. Maybe I'm reading this wrong. Maybe yeah, I can't understand how. I hope that I'm reading this wrong. Okay, so party serve, right? Rodney S. Diggs Esquires, and then Yalda Paydar Esquire. Y Paydar, I am law. Ivy McKinnell, Wyatt Purcell, and Diggs, a professional law corporation. So yeah, I am not understanding how she is served here. I just don't see it. I'm sorry. Defendant's notice of an appearance. Document served. So hold on a second. Let me step back. Yeah, I just don't see. So basically, Taylor English Duma LLP, defendant Shakina Jones Anderson hereby defines herself. Yeah, so apparently she has allowed herself to be served via email, and that service, it looks like, was done through her lawyers. So I just don't see it. I just don't see how she was actually served, because in any other state, to my knowledge, you can't serve somebody by email, by electronic filing. What I believe is happening is that Shakina is saying that she has provided this document electronically. That's what I believe is happening, right? But there's no evidence that she was actually served. I would like to actually see evidence that she was served, right? We do know that TIandTiny have not filed an appearance in this case as of yet. So because of that, I would say that TIandTiny have not been served. And again, if you haven't served TIandTiny, you cannot basically get a lawsuit against them. So essentially, we have this other document which talks about the actual service. So this is a order to show cause hearing, right? That's actually scheduled for today at 8:30 a.m. And basically, we'll see what happens. But basically, it says you are ordered to appear, and this is actually for Sabrina Peterson, right? So you are ordered to appear for an order to show cause hearing at 6 June 3rd, 2021, 8:30 a.m. Of this court, and basically in show cause why sanctions should not be imposed for failure to file proof of service. Basically, she hasn't filed any proof of service. At least I can't see where she's filed proof of service for anybody, right? Failure to comply or appear may result in sanctions pursuant to one or more of the following, right? Basically, they're going to dismiss the case if you don't show why you haven't filed proof of service. To avoid mandatory appearance, all required documents must be filed at least 5 days prior to the date of the hearing, right? Um, let's see here. Yeah, so that's essentially it with this particular document. Basically, they're saying, hey, you haven't served any of these people, right? You have not served anybody. Uh, at least you haven't served TIandTiny, and you need to come to court and you need to explain why your case shouldn't be dismissed because you didn't serve them, right? So that's why I believe she's coming out and she's actually asking for an apology instead of trying to win a lawsuit because she knows she's not going to win. You can't even serve them. You can't even serve these people. How in the world are you going to win a lawsuit when you haven't even served them, right? So I don't know why she hasn't served them. I would imagine that the cost of actually trying to serve somebody in another state, I don't know where TIandTiny are. I don't know if they're in California. I don't know if they're in Atlanta, Georgia. You guys tell me where they are. But if they're actually in Atlanta, Georgia, and this case is in Los Angeles, then it's going to cost a lot of money to hire somebody to run back and forth trying to locate TIandTiny to serve them. And then if you can't serve them, now you have to. Well, first off, the first step is to have the sheriff serve them, right? So I'm not sure what they would do in this situation because, from my understanding, TIandTiny is not actually in Los Angeles, so the sheriffs wouldn't be able to serve them in Los Angeles. So now you have to go to the court and you have to ask the judge for permission to go and have a private detective. That's going to cost you a lot of money, right? That's going to cost you a ton of money. Um, and then if they're not able to serve them through a private detective, then what I would imagine would probably happen is that you would ask for permission to file service through publication, which means you're going to put it in the newspaper and so on and so forth. But you really can't skip those first two steps, I believe, right? You can't skip the first two steps. Since the sheriffs couldn't serve them, I would imagine that maybe she can somehow employ the services of the U.S. Marshals, right? Because the U.S. Marshals would be able to probably go to Atlanta, but I'm not even sure that's possible. I'm actually speculating here because typically U.S. Marshals would only serve somebody in federal cases. I'm not sure if you can get them to uh, serve somebody in a, I guess, state case, right? So either way, it's going to cost a bucket load of money for you to serve TIandTiny, and she hasn't done that. Either she can't do it, or she's not willing to pay the cost, and she knows that the cost of actually paying lawyers, the cost of actually trying to pay private detectives to go out and find TIandTiny, all this stuff racks up. So before you even go into court, you've probably paid probably 5 to 10, maybe $20,000, just from the initial cost from this case, right? And then finally, we have this document, which really doesn't tell us anything. This document is essentially what is this? This is basically a case management document saying that the case is set up for case management, which means that they're going to essentially continue on with the case and try to um, push the case along, right? So it basically says this statement is submitted by party name Shakina Jones Anderson because she's shown up. And again, I don't even think she should have shown up or made an appearance in this case. I think she's making a mistake. And then the description of the case, complaint, no trial date has been set. If there is a case, a trial date to be held, it would take 4 days. And the parties will be present at trial by an attorney. Then it goes on to basically say that Shakina Jones is actually willing to go to mediation, but that mediation hasn't been scheduled, and there is a potential settlement conference and all this where they would just make some type of agreement on how they would settle the case, right? I don't know if Shakina Jones would just say, you know what, I'll just give you, X amount of dollars to just settle this whole thing, or if she's going to basically give her an apology and just move on. I don't know how they're going to settle it. That's between them. But me personally, and if there are any interrogatories and documents, requests, and depositions, they should be done by 10/31 or 3/31/22. This whole thing is a mess. Honestly, I just don't see how Sabrina Peterson is going to really win with this. I think her whole plan is basically falling apart before her face. And because of this, she basically just wants to save face and basically get an apology from TIandTiny. That's my impression. If you think there's something else going on with this case, if you think maybe Sabrina Peterson is somehow trying to trick TIandTiny, let me know, right? Because as of now, I don't see this case going anywhere. And the other thing is that her asking for an apology is just stupid, in my opinion, right? And then the other thing is, like, who are you? She's a nobody. Nobody would know who Sabrina Peterson is or was if she hadn't had beef with TIandTiny. Nobody would know, right? And I'm not saying that because I'm trying to be mean. I'm not saying that because I'm trying to be hateful. I'm just simply saying that because she has gotten into the spotlight because of TIandTiny. And once this is all over, she'll go back to the shadows, right? And you'll probably never hear anything of her again. At least that's what I believe, right? Now, with that said, she appears to be a successful businesswoman. She appears to be a successful entrepreneur, but that doesn't make her a celebrity. She again, she appears to know how to make money, and I have no doubt that she is making money. So basically, there's no denying that. But in the grand scheme of things, she's kind of gotten this celebrity status through TIandTiny. And once TIandTiny is gone, or once TIandTiny have basically won, then that's what she'll be known for. So maybe that's why she's trying to save face, is because she would just be known as the person who tried to take TIandTiny down, right? That's my own personal opinion, right? So that's it for this video. I'm wrapping it up. Questions or comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.